Over the last quarter of a century, Ireland has grown considerably in economic strength. The economic depression, unemployment and widespread emigration of the 1970s and 80s is almost unknown to the majority of the country's young people. We now live in the second richest country in the world, a place where 70% of the population are middle class. Only 4% of the Irish population are having trouble making ends meet, and we now have the lowest unemployment rate in national history. We now enjoy economic prosperity and an extremely high standard of living. According to David McWilliams, author of The Pope's Children, we are better off than 99% of humanity. However, this newfound wealth has coincided with a change in attitude towards our religious and spiritual development. This, paired with the decrease of any sense of community, has left many with a void in their lives. So, in modern Ireland, what are we missing? Why are we still searching? And why are we so unhappy?
I'm not sure that we are unhappier. I think that the affluence in society has in some ways increased the divide between those who have and those who have not. But sometimes we throw out the baby with the bathwater, and instead of perhaps reviewing the tradition and perhaps modifying and changing or developing, we reject it, relinquish it, and then we find we have a kind of a vacancy inside ourselves, and that vacancy can cause us to feel desolate and unhappy.
I think now people are in a position in life that they need greater guidance in their lives, because I think people have become wealthier as a nation. Certainly Irish people have become wealthier as a nation, but I think that we have become sort of spiritually redundant, or I think that people are searching for something. Now, when I was a kid growing up, nobody had any money, and everybody thought if they had more money, we'd all be happier. Now people have the money, and people have discovered they're actually more miserable and more deficient than they would have been years ago, because they're more disconnected, I think, from their true lives.
It is possible that the increasing access of these kinds of services has something to do with a search, as it were, soul searching, looking for something to do with our money now that we're rich and don't know what to do with ourselves. But I suspect, again, the difference is more in just awareness that these services are available, rather than the fact that our affluence has left us lost as such.
Whatever progress arrives materially to a country, it doesn't exempt human beings from the injunction that is always on them to find a valid way to live with integrity, find personal meaning, etc. And perhaps it makes it even harder for them. But one way or the other, that's what we're all about, rich or poor.
Ireland is now a highly competitive arena. The emphasis on wealth leaves us looking for increased security. People are searching for answers about their lives and their futures. These answers are sought from psychics, psychotherapists, counsellors, life coaches, mediums, and even the mass media. But what is it that we're looking for? Can we control fate? Do we have a specific destiny? What do we want to hear?
It is natural that we will try to find out. We'll try to delve into mystery, and we'll try all sorts of means of, as it were, finding out what's going on beyond our experience, beyond where we can reach. It is human beings searching and human beings reaching out, and perhaps not always finding the most authentic ways, and sometimes relying more on other people than on themselves and on their insights and their ability to dream.
I think a lot of people come to me for reassurance in relation to a life path decision they're about to make. Sometimes people come out of curiosity. A lot of times people come out of curiosity, but I do think that people need some sort of impartial viewpoint on their decision-making process. And I don't think things can be avoided, really. I think that what you miss in one corner, you meet at the next, because I think that life is whatever you have to learn. And I think that there's a learning curve for all of us. If we're going to come around again, and this gets into a whole different debate of reincarnation, etc., but I think we're all here to learn. and to help each other to learn. And I think that in our lives, we can't shirk certain things. What we can do, I think, and what people perhaps don't often realise, is how we deal with what we're given. That's really the part of fate we have control over.
As a psychologist, I would claim that there is no such thing as fate. There is no evidence to suggest that there is a superior, or at least there is not sufficient scientific evidence to suggest that there is some significant superior supernatural power that it will determine the outcome of an individual's actions or their life choices. So in that sense, at least, there is no such thing as fate. But again, within psychology, there are a few different viewpoints regarding as to how much control a person has over their own lives and over their individual decisions. And for example, in the recent years, there's quite a significant debate going on in the literature as to whether or not, for example, human beings have free will. There are a number of very significant psychologists who claim that free will is in fact an illusion, that we don't make the choices, though we get to observe ourselves as we make them, and we do feel like we make them, but it's nevertheless an illusion. And in that sense, society and our surroundings and our context and so on can drive and control a person's actions.
I think that if we lose sight of our authentic being, I'm firmly convinced that we are by nature spiritual people. We're spiritual beings. And because we're spiritual beings, we need spiritual nourishment.
There has been a sharp decrease in the practice of organised religion. We have moved from a society in which the parish priest was the centre of every community to a time in which huge numbers of young people in particular consider themselves atheists or agnostic. However, many experts believe that some sort of belief system is necessary for human growth. So, if Catholic Ireland is dying, what have we replaced it with?
There is always a need for some kind of coherent belief system, but that it needs to be a faith or religion isn't entirely clear. There's obviously, again, sort of a lot of viewpoints for and against this kind of idea. But you see, for example, huge amounts of the scientific community who would have not just no religious faith, but in fact would reject any kind of religious or what we might consider spiritual faith, and in fact use science as their coherent belief system. So there's no specific requirement for a religious basis, but some kind of coherent belief is important.
Yes, I think they are searching in non-religious areas, but I think that is appropriate. I think that people really need to use their intelligence, and in Ireland at the present time people are educated, people have opportunities for travel, education, experience raises a whole variety of questions for people, and it is appropriate that they explore those questions and search out what it is that makes meaning for them. I think it is important to make sure that we don't lose the values that are there in the tradition. I think the tradition has something to hand on to us, but the tradition uncritiqued becomes traditionalism, and that's just a dead thing, whereas tradition is something that ought to be revitalized.
I don't think that what I do for a living is at odds with religion. I think really they go hand in hand. And I do know that the Catholic Church would have issues in relation to what I do in relation to false prophets, etc. I don't feel like a false prophet. I think my gift comes from someplace. I don't think it comes from any negative source. I think that our spiritual lives has never really been as fragmented as they are now, because I think that at an earlier time, people would have consulted an oracle, people would have had a wise man in the village or a wise woman. It would all have been under the same package, if you like. And now you have to go to all these different people to access all this information. And one person would like to tell you that the information that I'm giving you is correct, and the information the other person is giving you is incorrect. It's like the Bob Dylan song. I just don't think it's appropriate to divide things up in relation to our spiritual growth and life.